Getting started with BookWidgets in Microsoft Teams, we're going to guide you through some tips and tricks to get you started with integrating BookWidgets in Microsoft Teams. I'm Cheryl, BookWidgets EdTech Specialist, and I'm joined today by my colleague Kate, also BookWidgets EdTech Specialist and Ambassador Community Manager. For those of you who are new to BookWidgets, I just want to give you a quick overview of what exactly BookWidgets is. BookWidgets is a teacher content creation and evaluation tool that we use to support our students as we guide them through the learning process from the very beginning of content creation to the end where we provide them feedback and evaluation. We have components that are integral to our platform, including a widget library. A widget library provides you the templates that you can use to create your content. An integration with learning management systems, including Microsoft Teams, the ability to monitor student progress live. And when you're able to monitor student progress live, you can act immediately with what they're doing, provide them support, encouragement, and feedback. And then finally, a robust reporting dashboard. Having statistics and information to guide your instruction and provide next steps is important. So we want you to make sure that you take advantage of the statistics and the learnings that are in that dashboard to guide you along your way. These four components altogether are to help you spend less time on content creation, grading, and feedback, and being able to provide what you love to do, that personalized lesson structure for your students, all within BookWidgets. Just to visually organize what we just talked about, that widget library, our auto grading, the LMS with Microsoft Teams included, and that real-time monitoring, which is a great addition, as well as the supporting, as the reporting dashboard. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do with BookWidgets. If you're new to BookWidgets, I want to show you a couple of examples. Here I have a worksheet. You will find a link to this worksheet that you can duplicate and use in your practice as well. And in this worksheet, you can see that it's a scrolling page of activities. What I love about this worksheet is that it includes an example of every question type that we have in BookWidgets. So you saw we started with a video. We have text, multiple choice, and multiple choice. We do have some questions that you would need to grade on your own. For example, the single line, multi-line, and rich text questions. We have fill in the blanks, and we have fill in the blank with a word bank, fill in the blank with a drop-down menu, and fill in the blank like this one without a word bank. Marking sentences, drag and dropping. So this is like your fill in the blank with a word bank. Correcting words in a sentence, using tables. We know that tables are an integral part of assessment, and students across all subject areas need to be able to read and use tables. True and false, but I want to remind you that these columns don't necessarily have to say true and false. They're totally customizable. A question table, one of my favorites, an annotate picture, great for our young learners or our students learning English as a second language or third language. A drawing or a whiteboard question. And right here, I just want to highlight for you. One of the great things that we have in BookWidgets is the ability to add support and help for our students, for example, by adding a hint. Uploading photos, so selecting a picture or using your camera to upload photos, word ordering, and so many other questions. I want you to make sure that you take the time to scroll through this worksheet, duplicate it, and customize it as it works best for you, or just to spark your imagination and creativity and give you some ideas on ways that you might be able to change up your current teaching and learning for your students. So make sure that you check out the worksheet widget. In addition to the worksheet widget, we have also a split worksheet widget. And in the split worksheet widget, it's my same idea of that scrolling piece of digital paper, never ending. You're not limited on the number of questions, but I've added a piece of information or a reference material here for my students. This happens to be a PDF. You could include a link to a podcast if you wanted. You could include just rich text if you want. But I wanted to highlight this because if you have publisher materials, you could upload a PDF of those publisher materials to use in that split worksheet. Another example that we have if you're new to BookWidgets is a quiz. And you'll notice right away that the quiz is not a scrolling piece of paper, but I have an arrow in the lower left and the lower right. And the arrow will guide me from question to question. We have the same question types as we have in the worksheet, just a different way that we're going to set up the information for our students. And just a little hint, sometimes I use a quiz rather than a worksheet because for my students, they tend to get frustrated if they see more than 20 questions and they say, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. When you only have one question on the paper, it sort of relieves that sense of there's a lot of information that I might need to add. And I love this example of a quiz because it shows you some of the customization tools. You'll see that there's a background image. We have all sorts of images that we've added. Yeah, we have a math problem here. So I want you to make sure that you check out all of the opportunities that we provide for you to get inspiration from some of the widgets that we have created. We also have a split whiteboard widget. A split whiteboard widget looks like that split worksheet. The difference is that in the split whiteboard widget, students will be able to draw on one side of the board. So here I have a background image. I'm going to go ahead and grab my paintbrush and I would be able to read the directions on the left-hand side and draw what the directions were asking me to do. And I want you to know that you don't always have to use BookWidgets in a one-to-one situation. You could put this up on an interactive board and have students come up and draw the directions on the interactive board. You could work in pairs where one student reads and another student draws. So lots of ways that you can customize widget activities. And then we have our video quiz widget. In the video quiz widget, you are able to upload a YouTube, Vimeo, or your own personal private video for your students to learn. If you attended Kate's flipped learning webinar, this is a really great activity that you can use is the video quiz. In this video quiz, you see that we've added instructions. The students can click onto the video, a video will play, and when the students get to a question on that video, it will pop up. The video will stop and it will pop up for them. You'll notice in this example that we were able to add more than one question at a stopping point, and you have all of the 35 question types that are available to you inside BookWidgets. So remember about that content creation, 40 templates and 35 question types. Of course, we want to dive in and see how does that work in Microsoft Teams. So as you can see, I've navigated to teams.microsoft.com or the domain for your school, district, county that you access Microsoft Teams through. I'm on my assignment page. So at this point, everything with logging in and creating content is the same. I'm going to show you the magic of BookWidgets as we dive into the creation component. I'm going to click on that button, Create, and I'm going to select New Assignment. So this is the same way that you would create an assignment in Microsoft Teams. I have more than one team, so it says, what team would you like to create an assignment for? I'm going to choose my English Language Arts team and click Next. Here is my setup page that I always find on my assignment page in Microsoft Teams. I'm going to give it a title. Oh. And I'm going to be working with you today on jungle animals. And I'm going to remind my students to please complete the attached BookWidgets activity. Now, this is where I want to show you the ease of creation. You don't have to navigate away from Microsoft Teams. I want you to come right down here to your apps picker. I want you to click on your apps picker and it will open up all of the applications that you have available to you. Now, your apps picker might look different from mine depending upon the limitations that your district has. You can, if you don't find BookWidgets, come up to the search and type in what you're looking for, and pre-population suggestions will pop up for you. If you need assistance getting that BookWidgets app added to your app picker, please reach out to us at support@bookwidgets.com. So what I'm going to do by selecting BookWidgets is open up the app directly inside BookWidgets. So this is my BookWidgets dashboard. And if I navigated outside of Microsoft Teams to bookwidgets.com, this is exactly the same dashboard that I would see. You can do one of two things. You can select a widget that you've already created, or you can create, build, assign directly inside Microsoft Teams. And I want to show you that workflow. So I'm going to select Create New Widget. And when I select Create New Widget, here is my list of all of those 40 widgets that I talked to you about, including the quiz, the worksheet, the split worksheet, and the video quiz that we highlighted. Right here they are at the top. You'll also notice that I have these little icons here. If you see the icon with the checkbox, that's an indication to you that auto grading is available in that widget. And then I'm going to talk about this later, the live monitoring component that I introduced to you when I talked about BookWidgets. So for example, you can see which of the activities would have live mode, which of the activities would support the auto grading to help you make your decision as you choose the widget that you want to use. Make sure that you explore all of the widgets that are available to you. I think that when you take a look at the endless possibilities, it will get you excited about what you can create with your students and for your students in the upcoming school year. I'm going to select a worksheet. So I'm going to select a worksheet widget. And when I select that worksheet widget, I'm brought to my BookWidgets dashboard. You'll notice here we have a little pop-out arrow. If you find it's too small to work here, you can pop out and have a larger screen. I always say to people just getting started with BookWidgets, start at the top, work from top to bottom and left to right. It's very important that you give your widget a title. A title helps you organize your widgets. It is not mandatory that you provide a description. However, by putting in a date, a standard, a link to a lesson, it might help you be better organized as your list of widgets that you create grows. It's not necessary to put in a description, it's optional. So I have my title and my description, and now I'm going to come here to the About section. The About section, I think, is very important. You're going to go ahead and use that Edit button. It will pull up some rich text formatting tools for you. And this section is visible to you only. So I want you to think about how you could use this for organizing your lesson. You could put links to other materials. Notice we have link and we also have image. You could add images that you want to make sure that you share with your students. And the wonderful thing about this section is that this text and the information that you put here is visible only to you. I added my state standards here. I added a link to my digital lesson plan, my weekly lesson plan. I used BookWidgets to totally help me organize all of my content across my entire course curriculum. It's important that you make sure that you select that Save button. And don't forget, as you create content, you will see these gray information, pieces of information pop up. Make sure that you read those because they will be very helpful for you. I want to continue editing. So here I was. my jungle animals. And I had my about section. And I'm going to select done and come to my questions. This is where we're going to add our questions for our students. I'm not going to create a lengthy worksheet, but I'm going to go ahead and add several examples for you. Once we select question, you will see that you have your options for all of your question types. And the first question type that I'm going to select is the annotate picture. An annotate picture allows students to look at a picture and interact with that. We're first going to select a background image or the picture that we want to use, and then put in the information that we want to use with our students. So I'm going to provide the instructions. I always like to provide those instructions for the students. So I'm going to ask them to provide the name of the animal in English and remind them that spelling is important because I am a teacher of English to new English learners. Then I'm going to need to add my background picture, but you don't have to worry about finding a background picture on your device or how are you going to get it. We have for you included in BookWidgets an image finder, Pixabay image editor. You have other options as well. You can choose an image or import an image from your Google Drive if you already have something saved. But I'm going to find an image online. I'm going to be taken directly out to the Pixabay image library, and I'm going to search for some jungle animals. Press my search button, and I will have a library including clip art, vector images, and images that I can use in my activity. Once you find the activity that you think best works for you and your students, click on the activity and it will be inserted into your question. No cutting, pasting, saving, uploading. There's my image. Remember, we're working from left to right, top to bottom. I'm going to follow my blue line and I'm going to add my first input field. This is the information that I want my students to provide to me. And you'll notice that I'm asked for what is the correct answer. By providing the correct answer, BookWidgets will do the grading for you. So let's start with our first animal, elephant. Now, my students might have other answers for elephant that I would think are correct. And here's a helpful hint. If you're new to using BookWidgets, you can use that double hashtag to indicate that there is more than one correct answer. In this instance, I would also accept an elephant. So I'm going to use my double hashtag, and that way it will speed up the grading for me. BookWidgets will accept elephant or an elephant as the correct answer. You see this little red triangle? It tells me that I'm not complete, that I have to put in the position. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my picture, and I'm going to find the bullseye, which is right here, and move it to where my elephant is. And now I want to show you that if you merely click, the input box will move to where you would like that. It's not necessary for you to drag and drop that input box. You can merely click and have the input box there. So bullseye and then click. I'm done with that input field, but I'm going to go ahead and add another input field. So let's go ahead and do lion, my double hashtag, a lion. And once again, provide my position, put that bullseye, there's lion, and where I would like my students to input. I'm going to select done. Let's do one more. I have several other animals. Let's try monkey. So I'm going to add my input field. In this instance, I'm not going to accept monkeys or the monkey. So these are the two answers that I will select. But once again, it's totally customizable for you and what you have been reviewing with your students and what you would allow them to input for these answers. Now, if you're at all like me, after you've done this work, you have to see it to believe it. So let's go ahead and click preview to see what we've created so far. Here's our title. Here's our question with our instructions. And there we have number 1, number 2, number 3, and the input for our students. I'm going to go ahead and click this X right here. We have 2 X's. I'm going to click the smaller X, which will take me back to my reporting dashboard. If I click the larger X, it will exit out of the creation. And of course, you can find your activity again. I'm just going to click this smaller X, and here we go. So I've added my first question. I really like how it looks. I'm going to come back. I see that I've added my 3 input fields, but I have a little bit more information down here. Remember earlier I showed you that idea of a hint. So if you want to provide a hint or information to your students, you can type in your hint. You have that rich text option. If you want to provide a rationale to the students after the answers are displayed, you can provide a rationale for them. You can also provide an image. But what I want to show you are the correction and scoring options. In this instance, I say, yes, I want this question graded, and I have some opportunities here to select how I will grade. I can score points only when all the answers are correct, or I can score points for each correct answer. In this instance, my students are still learning, so I'm going to suggest score points for each correct answer. If you were at the end of the lesson, you might want to change that to score points only when all the answers are correct. Now you notice that I had 3 questions that I asked the student, elephant, a lion, and a monkey. And the scoring weight here is 1 because the scoring weight is for each correct answer. If I change this scoring weight to 3, it would mean that this question was worth 9 points, that each correct answer was worth 3 points. So I'm going to keep the scoring weight to the default, and I'm going to continue to add my second question. So I really wanted to highlight this scoring weight for you. Generally, the scoring weight will be 1. I am going to show you an essay question where I will change that. So I'm going to add my next question, and I still want to do a matching. So let me go ahead and do a word picture match. So working on our vocabulary still, my students are going to add the image and the word, and now I'm going to add my distractors. So I'm going to start with a crocodile, and I'm going to go to my Pixabay library, find that image of a crocodile. And I just want to show you a little hint. If you want clip art, you can add the word clip art and it will just pull up clip art options for you. I like this one. So I've added my word and my image, but of course I want to add some more. So this time I'm going to add monkey, find my image. I'm going to keep them all the same by using some clip art. Let's go with this one. Let's add another image and pair. So quickly and easily, I can search for the images that I want directly inside Microsoft Teams and BookWidgets. And remember that option I showed you where you could add a distractor? I'm going to go ahead and add a distractor. My students always confuse hippos, elephants, and crocodiles, so I'm going to put in a hippo. But because it's a distractor, I'm not going to add an image. So I'm just going to add that final word. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's my first question that we already took a look at. And here's my second question. So you see that I have the 4 words and 3 pictures. So I've amped up that challenge a little bit for my students. Let's hop back into our creation dashboard and add a question. And this time I'm going to choose a multi-line text question. This is the question that I will need to create myself. I'm going to ask my students to write a paragraph, and I'm going to ask them to talk about their favorite jungle animal. I want them to include adjectives because we've been working on adjectives. And I've told them that they need 5 sentences. So I want to come down to that correction and scoring, and I'm going to change it because the default is 1. I'm going to change it to 5. So that will give me an opportunity to look for 5 sentences with those adjectives in there. Additionally, I'm going to provide a hint for my students about adjectives. So I'm going to give them a little bit of information. You could include a link in there. You could include an example, whatever you would like to provide for your students. So we've added our questions, but remember, we need to work all the way to the bottom of our reporting dashboard. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next tab, the reporting tab. In the reporting tab, you decide whether or not your students will submit answers to you. Sometimes in my class, we practice and we share with an elbow partner or we table talk about our answers. Other times, I want to see their work. But in a paper and pencil classroom, I don't necessarily collect everything we do. So you can choose whether the enabling of submitting of answers is on or off. When you have the enabling submitting of answers, you also have the option to allow the student to only submit once. And you'll notice here that we have exam mode. In exam mode, it's not a lockdown for your browser, but exam mode places a timer on the student activity. And it gives a countdown of how much time they have left to work on the activity. Remember how I talked about how I used a quiz sometimes, not specifically as an assessment, but to help my students focus on one question at a time? I also use exam mode or a timer to help my students so that they don't spend too much time on an assignment. Sometimes I get messages that say students spent an hour on homework where I felt it should have only been 15 or 20 minutes. And by placing a timer, especially early on at the beginning of a school year, it helps your students understand time management. I did have to have conversations with my students that it's not an exam, it's just to help them keep track of time. But you can enable that exam mode timer and put in a time in minutes or minutes, even down to the seconds. In this instance, I'm not going to enable that exam timer, but I wanted to show it to you. That finishes our reporting tab. So now let's take a look at the general tab. And you can see that the general tab has a lot more options than the reporting tab did. First, we have our correction and scoring options. We're going to decide whether we show the answers correct or incorrect when the quiz is done, and whether we provide them the correct answer. So am I going to tell the student that their answer is correct or incorrect is my top button, and the bottom button is whether or not I provide the correct answer immediately. You'll notice that if I uncheck the top button, the bottom button goes away. But if you have that top button checked, you can uncheck the bottom button. And I would do this if I were allowing multiple submissions, because I don't want my students necessarily to see a correct answer for multiple submissions. You can also color code correct answers, and you'll notice that you can configure it for every question. So if you wanted to show students a matching question that was correct, but not the annotate picture, you can definitely customize it. And I love that BookWidgets is about making your life easier and customizing exactly for you. You can show the points associated with the question, show the quiz score when the question is done. So lots of options here, as well as providing feedback. I am a big believer of feedback, so I want to highlight this for you. You can show the feedback in the widget when you return work, only inside the widget, or only as a part of returned work. So 3 options here for feedback. And the idea of the feedback is that if a student receives a certain score, you provide them an immediate piece of information or feedback. So if my score is equal to or lower than 100, I might say to them, I'm going to add an additional piece of feedback, and this time I'm going to add my feedback for 90. So I'm going to change this to 90, and I'm going to change the feedback. And you don't have to do your feedback in multiples of 10. You can customize your feedback to any number that you want. So here I could make this 78 if I wanted. In my instance, I go by those round numbers because the grading scale that my school and district uses is 90, 80, 70, 60. So I'm going to use these numbers. And 80 is the bottom of proficiency. So I'm going to let my student know that they are proficient. And you can add as much feedback as you want, as many times as you want, so that it automates that feedback process for you so that you don't have to type that in on every student's paper. And remember, it's based on the score. We have strict answering ordering, question ordering, and number. So many different choices for you to pick from here. I'm an English language arts teacher, so I'm not going to have spell check checked off. I want my students to work on it on their own. But I am going to enable text to speech. I think text to speech is a great accommodation for English language learners, but it can be used for almost any type of student. And so I'm going to use my browser text to speech for English and work yourself through the general tab so that you understand all of the options there for you. We have a scratch pad, a calculator, an equation editor. So make sure you pay attention to all of those. So now I want to take one final look at my activity. So here is my activity. I have my jungle animals, question 1, my matching, question 2, and question 3, my activity, which I will need to grade for my students. I'm all done. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now I'm saving my activity so that I can send it to my students. Yes, I want to update the points so that they match in BookWidgets and Microsoft Teams. I'm going to return to my assignment. Let me get rid of that other extra assignment that I have here. And now I'm going to, as I normally would, assign this to my students. So I have my same options for assigning, assign now or assign for the future. So I'm going to assign now, and you can see as quickly as I get back to my dashboard, here's my work for today. Of course, I want to show you how that looks from the student point of view. So I'm going to go ahead and log in now as a student. This is my student dashboard. And in the student dashboard, let me just refresh so that assignment pops up for Alex. I'm in my English language arts class. And where did my jungle animals go? Here we are right here. It's not due until tomorrow, so it's upcoming. I'm Alex now. I'm going to be participating as a student. So Alex sees her instructions. You'll notice that it's not turned in, 12 possible points, and she's going to click on the BookWidgets activity. BookWidgets is asking Alex to log in to her Microsoft account. Students do not need to create a BookWidgets account. And now here's that worksheet that I created. Look how awesome it is. Provide the name of the animal in English, and spelling is important. And I'm going to make a little bit of a split screen here for you, because do you remember how I talked about that live mode? I want to show for you that live mode so that you can see live mode in action. I have my student view on the right, my teacher view on the left. I'm going to open up my English language arts team. And you can see right here, it says somebody entered this assignment less than a minute ago. I can click on that assignment. I say, oh, Alex, remember that's who I logged in is working on the assignment. I can see Alex and all of her work, or I can see individual student. And of course, you have more than one student in class. You would see the entire list of all of your students who had logged into Teams and are working on the assignment here. I'm going to hop on over here to Alex, and I want you to watch carefully. So Alex number 1 has to put in elephant. She's going to click here onto her activity. Did I have a timer set? Okay. And I'm going to here on number 3 is my monkey. I'm going to put in monkey. And you'll notice that I haven't spelled monkey quite correctly. Tells me that Alex is still working. And we see this green area that shows she's working on question number 1. I can click on question number 1 and I can see Alex's work live in real time. If Alex went back and changed the spelling, I would see, she's changed the spelling and she's received the correct answer. What was number 2? Was number 2 a lion? Once she hits that enter key, I can see as well, and I can see exactly what Alex is doing on her activities. Let's come on down to our matching. We have to match a crocodile. I'm going to use this tab to navigate to the next question, and I can see, she didn't quite get that right, but in real time, I could see if Alex was changing her answers. I love this idea of working in live mode. Using live mode, you are able to see in real time who your students are who are excelling. Maybe you can provide them a reward game or a challenge activity. And you can also see your students that might need some extra support, all right here inside your BookWidgets live dashboard. Now, this is the one time that I navigated away from Microsoft Teams. You'll see that I'm in my BookWidgets portal and I've selected that live view. And I'm able to see how my students are working in real time as they are completing activities in their Microsoft Teams account. So they had to match the word in the image. They have 4 for 4. Remember, I have that distractor there for number 4. And then we have our 5-sentence essay. When students are writing, you will be able to see what they are writing in real time. You'll be able to help students who are struggling, provide them feedback. I will tell you that I was that student where my teacher said, raise your hand if you need help. And I never raised my hand because I felt silly. I felt dumb. And so I needed help. I just didn't want my teacher to single me out. So the idea of being able to follow your students live allows you to support your students where they are without having to single them out. So Alice is, I like a tiger. It lives in the jungle. Tiger is big, fierce. It eats other animals. Alex can take a look at that hint if she needs to. And when she's all done, she clicks the submit button. Now, when she clicks the submit button, that submits her work to BookWidgets. And she sees a reminder here that says to her, don't forget to turn your work in Microsoft Teams. So I'm just going to exit out of this live mode and come back to our jungle animals with Alex so that you can see that student view. So here's our student view. She's going to click her X after she has submitted her work. Just minimize this a little bit so we can see it. And she's going to make sure, like we always do inside Microsoft Teams, that she selects that turn in button. So it's a 2-step process. Turn into BookWidgets and turn into Microsoft Teams until you get the rocket, or in this instance, I got the disco ball. So now Alex's work is turned in. She's turned in jungle animals, and she can now wait for feedback from me as the teacher. So I'm going to say goodbye to Alex's work, and we're going to come on back to our account inside Microsoft Teams as a teacher. So here I am in my Microsoft Teams account as a teacher, and I'm going to take a look at my assignments and see if I have any work that's ready to grade. And there's Alex's work right here, jungle animals. I'm going to open up Alex's work and select See that she has turned it in, and take a look at her work. Here's Alex's work. Here's my reference material and Alex's work. I'm going to open up Alex's work. You'll notice that using BookWidgets, the work opens up in an interactive PDF. I am going to be able to send messages to Alex. I'm going to be able to type directly on this PDF and send comments and feedback to her. Remember the feedback that I told you about? Here it is. It tells her right now that she's proficient, but remember, I have to grade that last question. So right now she has 6 out of 12. Let's see what happens with the rest of her work. All right, so we see that she provided a lion and a monkey. I can make a reply to her and say, did you forget number 1? And if I allow submissions, resubmissions, I can encourage her to try again. And now that comment is directly on this PDF that I'm creating. She has all of her work correct here. So of course I'm going to encourage her, noticing that she has all of her work correct. And then I'm going to take a look at the work that I need to grade. When I take a look at the work that I need to grade, I like a tiger, it lives in the jungle. Tiger is big and fierce. So I'm going to remind her that it's a tiger. And it eats other animals. 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences, 2 adjectives. So I'm going to make a global comment here for Alex. That she has a great start. Of course, we want to engage that SEL and encourage them. But I want to remind her that she needs 5 sentences and 3 adjectives. This will help you avoid that "why did I get" question. We're answering for them exactly why they received something specific. I'm going to give Alex 4 points. She's a great essay, great beginning of an essay here. So she's 4 points on her essay, 4 points on her matching, 2 points on her animals, and you'll notice that the score has updated automatically. While I'm here, I want to point out these buttons to you. Remember how Alex had all of these answers correct? You can use this filter button, and when you use the filter button, you can hide correct answers. The reason I'm showing this to you is I don't know if you're at all like me, but if there's something written on the page, I read it. And if I hide the correct answers, now look, I only need to grade question 1 and question 3 because I know now that question 2 is totally correct. So I can hide and unhide correct answers to speed up that grading process. BookWidgets is about helping you work smarter, not harder, from content creation to evaluation and feedback. And this little funnel is a great way to help you work smarter. You can also download the work as a PDF if you needed to email it to a parent or share it in an IEP. We have our return work button here. Delete, be careful with that. Archive to save. And then we have our configuration for our student view. Because students are individual, you can individualize the student grading components here. So if I know that Alex is very hyper-focused on the points, I could eliminate the total number of points so that you'll notice they disappeared here now, that Alex isn't focused on them. Let me show you that again. Here's the total points. I didn't get 12. I didn't get 12. Now I can hide that if I feel that that would be more beneficial to her. And we can do the same thing globally for the entire class. Show the total points, show points per question, show correctness, so that I can hide that or show that. Everything totally customizable for you and your students. I'm going to click Save. And now that I've graded Alex's work, I need to return that work to her. Now I could return it here. If you have a long list of students, you're not going to want to return individually. And you also have a reminder that you need to make sure that you return the work in Microsoft Teams as well. But you may not want to return that work individually. You might also want to return that work globally for all of the students. So remember your assignment page where you would have all of your students. You could return the work there as well. Now I need to make sure that I go to my assignments and return that work for Alex. Because if I don't return the work to Alex, she won't be able to see it. So I'm going to come back to Alex, check off her name, and I have more than one student. I could check them all and return it all, but Kate hasn't turned in her work yet. So I'm just going to return to Alex and return that work to her. Now you see, Alex is on my return page and Kate is on my waiting to turn in page. Let's go back and take a look at what Alex sees. Here's Alex again from that student point of view. Let me just refresh so that Alex can see her grades. I'm going to come to grades. Remember, I'm showing you the student view now. Here is Alex's work that's showing as being returned, her total number of points. If she wants to take a look at her work, she can take a look at her work. Alex will be able to see all of the comments that I've made on her work, as well as any other information. So here we have, did you forget number one, a reminder to her, my feedback on her being proficient, my feedback that she did a good job, and my reminders. So Alex is able to see quickly and easily how well she has done on her work. For me, the ability to be able to return work, here Alex can see that it is graded, the ability to return work quickly and easily is a great time saver for me. So that is a quick walkthrough on how you can use BookWidgets directly inside Microsoft Teams. But I want to navigate out to BookWidgets itself for just a minute. I want to highlight for you, this is where you will have that live view where I followed Alex's work live. Remember, you can click on the student or the question to see how the students are doing. And I want to magnify for you so that you can see, do you see this little envelope here? This envelope tells you that the student has returned in their work. At the beginning of the year, especially with Microsoft Teams and BookWidgets, students will turn their work in BookWidgets and forget to press the turn in button in Microsoft Teams. And at the beginning of the year, as the teacher, you can press this button and turn it in for them. I remind the students the first week or so, don't forget that double turn in process. I remind them and help them, but as the year progresses, I encourage them to remember to turn in their work. And you can always see that whether students or not, students will say, I did the work. You'll be able to see it right here in live mode. But something else that I want to show you to help you as you're thinking about creating content and how you might find other pieces of inspiration is to join one of the many groups that we have in BookWidgets. How do you find a group? I'm on my widgets page and I'm going to scroll down to where it says my groups. I'm going to click my groups and you can see I love groups. I've joined a lot of groups, but you have here a discover page. And in the discover page, I want you to make sure that you put in the BookWidgets blog. If you follow BookWidgets and you receive Lucy's email or our blog posts or read our blog posts, every widget activity that we share is in this group. And I just want you to look at all these folders. All of these folders are filled with activities that you can duplicate and place in your own widget dashboard. So if you're looking for some first day of school activities, go ahead and check out all of these activities. And maybe you don't have to recreate the wheel. You will be able to adapt some of these activities and use on your own. So again, my groups, discover groups, look for a group that you think you would like to join. In this instance, you'll see that the group is locked. So you would request to join the group, and then the owner of the group will let you into that group. So lots of ways for you to interact with other BookWidgets users and connect with us. Of course, don't forget the grades and reporting dashboard. That's our final component. Here I can see my work that my students have done. And I can see who's turned in the work. I can click on students, or I can click on the activity to see the work that they are doing. Don't forget your cogwheels all over the place in BookWidgets, where you can archive, delete, share, all sorts of work that you can do. So I hope you enjoyed this webinar on Microsoft Teams and BookWidgets.